everyone, this is Jonathan Shrager from Stretty News TV. I'm here today, I'm joined by Ian Ladyman from the Daily Mail and Mark Ogden from the Daily Telegraph. They both kindly offered to take a little bit of time this morning to do a little preview of the game versus Olympiacos, last 16, Manchester United. They're both out in Athens, they both kindly offered to join me. We had a bit of a technical hitch, so they're both actually sat next to each other now. But no, thanks fellas for joining us this morning.
That's all right.
Lovely. Right, well, first of all, obviously you were both at the press conference last night, I imagine. How did that go?
It's pretty short. David Moyes wasn't in the most positive frame of mind. He was sitting next to Wayne Rooney. He was the designated United player for the day. Most people probably know that UEFA demand that each competing team puts up a player before the game. So it was Rooney's turn last night. He was quite talkative. Talked about how he wants to finish his career with another Champions League victory and how he realises that the team haven't performed this season and understands that if he can finish off the season with a few wins in the Champions League, it might lend the season a bit of shine that it hasn't got at the moment.
Okay. I mean, it was, like you said, it was quite short and sharp for Moyes. When he got Sonic Ferguson, it looked like his chance to bend his opinion and just take the stage with it. But David hasn't really grasped that yet, so thankful that otherwise David and that's like yeah, I think David needs to kind of grasp a little bit and find out that being a Champions League manager is more than just short and sharp and sarcastic responses to some pretty genuine questions.
So, Mark, can you just sort of move forward there a little bit, just talk a bit lovely, just so I can hear a bit more there. And so sorry, that last point. You think that he needs to
he needs to kind of realise the stage that he's on and treat it like Ferguson did, Mourinho does, Mancini did. It's the big stage this year of the Champions League. It was a little kind of small time yesterday. He just had it was actually a perfectly reasonable question by Sky and said he dealt with it in a very dismissive way. And what he doesn't realise is that goals around the world rejected by news.
Yeah. And so is that sort of in keeping then with how people have perceived his sort of other recent press conferences? Sort of people have noted that he's been slightly on the defensive, not sort of uber relaxed really when handling the media.
I think he's had a bad month in terms of media relations. I have to say, I think earlier in the season, I remember after the Derby defeat at City, he came out for a press conference a couple of days later before the Capital One Cup game against Liverpool. He was actually quite bullish and talked well and said that he understood it wasn't good enough, but that he would, I think the phrase he used was that he would take the punches and he would have to probably take some more punches, and that was quite impressive stuff back then. But I have to say, in recent weeks, as the pressure has grown and the screw has been turned a little bit, he has begun to look like a guy who is feeling the pressure and is not particularly relishing the pressure. Now, he will probably claim that inside it's not like that. He'll probably claim that he is dealing with it. Well, he doesn't seem to be dealing with it that well. And I do wonder, regardless of what message that sends to the media or to supporters, I wonder what message that sends to players. I just think he needs to relax a little bit. And he needs to realise that people who sit in press conference rooms aren't there to trip him up. They aren't there to persecute him. They're just there to ask him pretty reasonable questions. And I just think he needs to relax a little bit, like Mark said.
I think it needs to become a little bit more Man United. He's not Everton anymore. I think sometimes we're dealing with questions like Everton. He was a very political figure there. He hasn't got that same power in United as surroundings, and I think he's just going to go into the job a little bit more. And there have been times he's done that, like he said about the Liverpool press conference at the start of the season, but he felt backwards towards a kind of an alternative when he's things like slightly to go to the front foot and he's taking a chance. David seems to, I think, look for arguments and look for battles, really.
And the thing is, if you're sitting in front of a room of journalists, most journalists in that room will be will be relatively intelligent people. So if you're going to counter their questions by making clever, in inverted commas, clever quips or rather kind of defensive responses, it's not really going to work. You're not going to frighten people, and you're not going to impress people. Ultimately, you're just going to look a little bit as though you're under pressure. Mark makes the point that these press conferences go out live on TV, or at least if not live on TV, they're shown on TV, often in their entirety. And you can't hide from the TV camera. People out there can blame journalists for putting spin on things, or they can blame journalists for having agendas. You can't argue with something that's there in technical and on a TV screen. And David is helpful at times, and he's certainly more helpful with us, the written media, than he is with TV. We're not sitting here saying that he hasn't cooperated at all, because he has. But for his own point of view, and for his own sake, and for his own reputation, he just needs to be a bit smarter when the TV cameras are there.
And you sort of alluded there to Rooney's comments about obviously it'd be nice to maybe salvage the season in a way by winning the European Cup. I mean, from your perspectives, how realistic is that ambition?
I think it's unrealistic at the moment, but it's not impossible. It's the last 6 weeks. If everything is very good, all we do is kind of force. If you avoid Barcelona by moving around the pitch, it's safe to keep through it. You just never know. Liverpool beat Juventus, Chelsea, and 18 months away. The sacrificing serious players. Chelsea were at the best in Mourinho, so anything possible. I think the bench was a bit suspect at the moment, but they got goals and they really fan person. So who knows? It'll take something remarkable, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. But like I said, we can have some.
And Ian, what do you think? Do you echo those sentiments?
It's a cup competition, isn't it? And cup competitions rely as much as anything on the type of draw that you get, and sometimes a bit of luck on a night. I don't see United winning the Champions League. I don't think anyone with a shred of sanity would really see United winning the Champions League. But things happen. They don't need to win it to not salvage the season, but they don't need to win it to add a little bit of gloss to the season. Even if they got to a semi-final or something, and therefore took the season into April, deep into April, for the supporters' sake, at least supporters would come out of that feeling as though they'd had a season. Whereas if United were to lose this one, up 2 days against Olympiacos, then United's season would pretty much be over. And not unprecedented, but it's something that hasn't happened for a long, long time for Manchester season to be over in the middle of March. So, for their own sakes and for the supporters' sakes, we need to get through this tie. And then there's the quarter-final. There's only 8 teams left, and pretty much anything can happen from that point.
Okay, and then sort of specifically discussing tonight's game, how do you think potentially formation-wise David Moyes might line up tonight?
On Saturday, probably the 4-2-1 out, same again. Obviously, massive half-flex, I imagine. That's a good thing. Good side now. Overall, see a change in the team. Because everyone seems to play that 4-2-1 formation. That's not really an option to go with, really. So I imagine I don't think we're looking at that. That's a good massive shot tonight. Is what we're working with in games on the season.
And who do you think might come in for Mata? Do you think potentially Kagawa or?
No, actually, young Valencia, actually, Valencia, it's good enough for Moyes. I hope it's a job for Moyes likes it.
Yeah, I think if you play really behind Van Persie, like Mark says, Valencia has the young players who are not the most exciting players that you have on their books these days, but they'll do their job defensively, they'll stick to that kind of shape that's important away from home in Europe. They'll probably end United a more secure than maybe they would have if Januzaj or somebody played I also agree with Mark. I don't see Kegel being anywhere near that team tonight, which in my experience for me will probably start.
Right. And can you offer us kind of any information or insight into Olympiacos as a team? I mean, how are they performing or faring in their league, and potentially any danger men for us to look out for as Reds?
Flying really competing all season. If we win the league on Saturday, I'll possibly win the league, so it shows that we're really out. Wow. Celtic families, so maybe it's such a weak league and such a big league and not as strong secondary league as we are domestically. So in terms of players, we've lost the top scorers to Fulham on loan. Sorry, not on loan, we went to Fulham in January. Saviola injured, and the guy they brought in to replace the sort who's cup side, so they haven't really got a striker. So there's anything to be nice and positive about is the fact that yes, they're a strong team, but they haven't got a striker of any note tonight. So
the problem with the teams who play in smaller leagues in Europe is that they might win every week, and they might therefore have a certain momentum and the confidence and optimism that comes on the back of football matches. But if you're not playing against teams of this level, United's level, regularly, and when you do, you tend to get undone really. I'd be surprised if United didn't win both next time.
The Olympiacos coach Michel was saying that he struggles to change the way that they play over here. He said basically attack all the time. They don't know how to defend. So when they're playing against the better teams, they don't have to do it. So PSG won 2 games against the group stage. They matter tonight. They'll be saying they'll attack United. United don't really look at that. But if the league captain is around them, United will attack the team.
Okay, so what's your kind of result prediction tonight then?
Well, actual scoreline?
Yeah.
2-0, Ladies United.
Okay.
I've got 3-1 United. We'll get a better response to the back of the
3-1, lovely. Well, thank you. Thanks for joining us today for this Olympiacos preview. Enjoy your day out in Athens, lads. And obviously follow Ian on Twitter and Mark as well. They're both brilliant on Twitter. Alright, thanks for joining us then.
Cheers.
Cheers. Bye bye.